Were they all steaming drunk?
It was a private members club. What do you think?
Say no more.
Welcome to season 3 of the Sports Podcast award-winning 147 Snooker Podcast with me, Sports MC Phil Seymour, and him, the former world champion and Triple Crown winner, the magician, Sean Murphy.
And it's come around quickly, the end of season wrap-up podcast. How are you doing, Sean?
I'm really, really good, Phil. How are you? Great to see you.
It's great to see you too. Yeah, you're looking well, mate. And you've done your hair this time because we are officially now a video podcast.
Just thought I've got away with it for the last few years. I thought if we're going to start putting this out there for people to actually see it rather than just hear it, I thought I better make a bit of an effort. I've had a long-standing bit of stick about my hair.
Well,
You know,
for me.
from everybody. And so I just thought I better do it. Anyway, I don't think I'm going to be winning haircut of the year, but it's better than it usually is.
If people saw some of the states we've been in on this podcast. It is no video podcast. You put it on your YouTube channel last time we recorded it. We're going to do the same again with this one. The response was very good as well.
I think I think there's something about when you put the video on and you can actually see the conversation. It gives context to what you might say or the odd sentence here. And listen, try as hard as we may, things do get taken out of context every now and again, don't they? But I think the fact now that we're putting it out there for everyone to watch, as well as listen to. You don't have to watch it.
Yeah.
If you want to just keep listening to it, that's no problem at all. But it just for me, it brings everyone into the conversation a little bit more, I think, and means that those little misquotes or things can't be taken out of context because you can actually see now the drivel that we talk about as well as just listen to it.
Absolutely. Can I'm going to get into the last podcast in a minute. Since the last podcast, though, Sean, you've been racking up the air miles.
Oh goodness!
I mean, it's the off season. You're on holiday now, aren't you? Clearly.
This is supposed to be the off season. These back in the day, back in the 80s and 90s and that, you like Stephen Hendry's, and they used to put the queue down for 4 months and not play any snooker. They were just playing golf.
So let me get this right then. So the first weekend after World Championships, you flew to China for 3 days.
Flew to China, yeah. We went to this big national, massive billiards expo in Guangzhou, which I mean, I've never seen anything like it in snooker ever before. Pretty much every brand in cue sports, be it tables, cues, balls, accessories, whatever it might be, cloth, anyone associated with cue sports, and of course that's not just snooker,
Yeah.
was there. It was like a big trade show. And I mean, the numbers of people that were there was just staggering. And it felt like the whole tour was there. Any player with a Chinese sponsor,
Well,
they were
I
in
was,
town.
I was
Uh,
going to mention this. There was like literally everyone was there. Selby was there. Taylor Wilson was there with Kyron. I think was Stuart there as well. Bingham.
yeah, yeah. Mark Williams was there. Judd was there. Everyone was doing different bits of, maybe doing a couple of exhibition shows or on a stand with your sponsor, doing trick shots, meet and greets, photo opportunities, that kind of stuff. It's the type of stuff that you see happening in a lot of other sports and
Yeah.
industry. But it was. Do you know what? It was really encouraging to see it in snooker. I've never seen a building that big before. It was like 2 or 3 aircraft hangars. This
Oh,
building full,
so we're doing
absolutely full.
you've booked a live podcast there next year, yeah?
I tell you what, it'd go down really well. I know you've just thrown that in last minute like a little curveball, which you like to do, but we should do that.
Yeah.
It would be fantastic, and just the amount of people there
Hmm.
was incredible.
I would question whether they'd understand what we're saying. That's the only thing I would say.
Well, they might not understand what you're saying, but
Probably.
that's different. So I was in China, but I flew to China. I got to China, got to Guangzhou at 10 o'clock on the Friday night. And by 10 o'clock on the Sunday night, was back on the plane coming home.
Crazy. I
There
mean,
for 2 nights. It was incredible.
so how good friends are you with Greta Thunberg exactly?
Yeah, I won't be getting a card from Greta
She
Thunberg at any
love
stage.
you. And then you got back from there, a couple of days back in Blighty, and then Helsinki.
Went to Helsinki. What a fabulous city! What a fabulous place! I saw last year a couple of pictures and a video or something of a show that they did there. A few players were out there. I think Ali Carter got roped into it last minute, ended up winning the tournament, and it's basically like an exhibition tournament.
Yeah.
There was a shootout on the Friday night, which was a bit of fun. It was absolutely hilarious, actually, because I don't know if you know this, but I think 16 of us played in the shootout.
Right. Okay.
And I was the only one who read the dress code, which was chilled out, relaxed, smart, sort of business casual, chinos and a shirt,
But
trousers,
everyone else is in
that
snooker.
kind of thing. No one else read it. So when we turned up to do the shootout, everyone else was in waistcoat and snooker gear,
Oh, nightmare.
and I'm there in chinos and a shirt, like lads. But it looked like it looked like I got it
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah. It'll say you've gone scruffy.
Unbelievable. So I got nothing but abuse from the lads for that, for wearing chinos. That was what the flipping rules said. Um, and then on the Saturday, Sunday, they had the sort of the main event. As I say, it was more of an exhibition style event. But some of the players were taking it very seriously, you know. I actually said to Mark Williams, who beat me 4-3 in our match,
Yeah.
I think I've got this wrong, you know, because he was playing granite snooker. And I said, I thought this was like a show. I thought it was like an exhibition show. I'm there trying to make 147s and like play semi trick shots and entertain the crowd. Meanwhile, Mark's put the brown on the cushion and snookered me on all the reds. I'm like, what's going on here? So I think one of us definitely didn't read the brief. It was probably me, to be totally honest. I think I probably got that one wrong. But what a place Helsinki is! What a great city, and what a great few days we all had. It was great fun.
I think I'm right in saying Finland is it the happiest country in the world? It's like the best country in the world to live in or something, isn't it? And it wins that like every year.
That's the claim. That's
Yeah.
that's the claim. And I have to say, like we had a walk round, and we may have ended up in an Irish bar watching the Eurovision coverage. That might have happened.
How is it that wherever you go in the world, there's always an Irish bar?
Yeah.
I mean,
Of course, in Ireland they just call them bars.
well, yeah,
But
that's true.
we might have ended up in. I think it was called Molly Malone's.
Of course,
I think
it's called Molly Malone.
Of course, it was called Molly
Of course
Malone's.
it was, yeah.
I think we ended up in Molly Malone's watching the Eurovision coverage, and may have cheered slightly too loudly when the UK's entry came on. But yeah, no, it was a great weekend, despite us finished 19th in the Eurovision. That didn't dampen our weekend.
I'd rather eat my own feet than watch Eurovision, if I'm honest. But that's personal preference. It's not for me. It really is not my thing.
You're so jolly. You're so jolly
Yeah,
today.
sorry.
Are you
Did you-
okay? Has something happened?
You've been in Guangzhou and Helsinki. In the meantime, I've been in Preston, Sutton Coldfield, and Wolverhampton. Oh, the glamour.
Not racked up quite the same amount of air miles.
Not quite, no. But you've got a calmer time now, yeah?
Did all of your wheels make it home back to York?
Did all of my wheels make it home?
You didn't lose a wheel or a hubcap or an alloy or anything. Nothing was stolen on your journeys around the country.
Go on. What's happened?
No, nothing. No, no. I was just saying, like, I wondered if all your wheels made it back.
Yeah, everything made it back. Yeah. Well, oh, you mean? Oh, okay. Yeah, Preston and Birmingham. Yeah, I get it. You lost me there for a second. Right. Now, on the last podcast.
We started the podcast.
Yeah, we started the podcast. We are recording. We've mentioned the last podcast already. First of all, thank you to everyone that listens and watches now as well. We had our biggest ever listening figures from an audio perspective, and obviously the viewing figures were very good as well. But from an audio perspective, our biggest ever listening figures we've ever had for a podcast. So thank you to everybody that listened. Thank you to everyone that gave us nice comments. We took on a few tougher subjects on the last podcast, Sean. I think it's fair to say, and we got some really, really nice comments. We got some not so nice ones. We got called racist, which that cuts because neither of us are anything like that. You got called jealous by certain people. We got accused of slagging people off. So I just want to put the record straight on a few things before we start. Okay, first of all, racist, absolutely, categorically not. Okay, we discuss all players. We discuss all players of all races, genders. colours, creeds, whatever, in the same way. We don't judge, we don't comment in that way at all. Not a thing. People that just listen to small clips of the podcast and didn't listen to the whole thing accuse you of being jealous. Not the case, again, at all. Particularly talking about Zhao Xintong. We heaped praise on that young man because what he did in the World Championships was nothing short of sensational. It was amazing. It was amazing from him. It was amazing for the sport as well. Okay. What we did do was discuss certain things in the rules. And I think you personally got across how you saw it and how you were thinking as a player. And I think how many players were feeling, judging by the things that I saw on social media, which I think was pretty fair as well. So what I would say to people is listen to the whole podcast. Don't just listen to clips. Listen to the whole podcast so you get everything in context. As a podcast, when we first started this, 3 years ago, I think now, we set out to be snooker positive, okay? We both love this sport, all right? We both absolutely love the sport. Obviously, it's Sean's living. It's not mine anymore, but we both love the sport. We, in that time, have helped to promote events on the tour. We always tell people where they can get tickets, where they can watch events. We've brought some people to the sport that hadn't watched snooker before and got them into it. As a podcast, we've always tried to be snooker positive. We will always try to be snooker positive. However, we won't back down or not talk about topics that need talking about. Okay? For all of you, for our listeners out there, we think that's what you want. We think that's what you want us to do. So we're going to keep doing that. Okay? But I would just urge people to listen to the whole podcast in context so you get the whole thing. We just want people to enjoy snooker and hopefully understand it a little bit more. Is that fair, Sean?
Yeah, totally fair. I think, we've certainly tried, haven't we, to never be anything but positive for the
Yeah,
sport.
absolutely.
I would agree with everything you've just said there. Listen, you're never going to please everybody, are you?
Oh, of course you don't.
But I think those personal attacks on people is just, they've no place really in modern life.
Listen, we wouldn't do it, and we would hope no one else would either. But anyway, on that, I'm done with that.
Was that your rant?
My rant is over. Right, we've had some feedback on the previous podcast. So, talking about the points discussion, the ranking points discussion on Zhao Xintong, Paul Mallon on Facebook says, keep up the good work. I see Sean is getting some flack for the Xintong discussion, but keep talking about these issues. Frankly, as the social media conjecture is simply just arresting the details from the narrative to suit people's bias. It was very clear it was not an attack on Xintong, and I highly doubt most people listening took it that way. It was a governance conversation rather than a personal one against anybody, and that was clearly evident. Anyways, just my 2 cents. Thanks again, guys. Thank you for that, Paul. That's I think he's just summed up what I said, but in much better words, basically.
Now, can I just ask you a quick question? Because this is what people... Did you write that? Is
No.
Paul Mallon a real person?
Paul Mallon is very much I mean...
Paul Mallon, your alter ego?
That might not be Paul's real name, but no, that was a genuine message we've had in. So I've never made any of these up. And we've had 2 in.
We should definitely start making these comments up.
I should do, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, this next one is from Bob Smith. Bob says, Phil, what a handsome man on YouTube. Thanks, Bob. A couple on you wanting earpieces banned from arenas. Brian McGovern on X. Brian, good friend of the podcast over in Ireland. Hi, Sean and Phil. I think the earpieces are vital. I was in Belfast at the Northern Ireland Open, and as I am someone who's visually impaired, the earpiece was helpful as regards being able to follow the match. Keep up the good word on the podcast. And then Mickey Meyer on Instagram. I think there's a question from Mickey coming later on as well. I get Sean's point on the earpieces. It certainly doesn't make the commentator's job easier. However, I couldn't disagree more if it comes to the added value for the audience. I've been to several events over the last 2 years. I think I have an above average understanding of the game compared to the average audience member. And I still think following the comments whilst watching it live in the arena is massively beneficial. Hearing the experts' thoughts like Sean on something that's literally happening live in front of both the commentators and spectators, I find that rather exciting and also very unique to snooker. I guess the usage speaks for itself. About 80% of the audience is wearing them, isn't it? Very good point.
Yeah, very good points, particularly the point about being visually impaired. from Brian. I totally get that. I suppose I'm just looking at it from a player's point of view of, you're in the Crucible, or you could be at the Ali Pali or at the Barbican for the UK champs, or anywhere for that matter where WST sell the commentary earpieces. And let's have it right. The commentators who sit in that commentary booth, of which, I'm currently part of that family. You're commentating for the people watching at home.
Yep.
We're not commentating for the people sat in the crowd. That's not the job of the commentator. And as a player, when you're out there, particularly at the Crucible, because it's so small, when the crowd burst out laughing at what is usually a very serious moment, because let's face it, in the matches, particularly in the World Championship, all of the moments are serious. They're all big moments.
There's no non-serious moments at the Crucible.
And so when the crowd burst out laughing because the commentator has said something funny that the crowd in the audience aren't supposed to be able to hear, it does really affect play. And there's not a player out there who's not been affected by this. Maybe, like a lot of other subjects, maybe they don't speak out about it as loudly as I do. And maybe I get myself in trouble for speaking out where other players decide to take a swerve on things. And maybe that's something I should do more of. But from a player's point of view, the earpieces are totally debilitating.
Yeah.
But, as our guys have said there writing in, they do add to the experience of the crowd members. There's no two ways about that.
Yeah.
And certainly don't want to diminish anyone's experience at a snooker event. But it would, you'd like to think there might be a middle ground in there somewhere, and I don't think we're there yet with it. Maybe we that's just part of the game now, isn't it?
I think laughing at funny comments, I don't think you're ever going to change that. I think they should be in ear, so you can't actually hear them in the arena. I think hearing them in the arena can be a bit off-putting. I will say this though, Sean, I'm very much on the other side to the side you're on. Commentators paid to be there, players paid to be there, spectators pay to be there. So it should be more about them. And if the spectators want them, as Mickey said, 80% of the people in the crowd are wearing them. Clearly they do want them and they like them. So I'm pretty sure the earpieces are going to stay. But thanks.
So just on that then, before we move on, do you think the commentators then should be more aware of what they're saying and say
100%.
Really?
Yeah, 100%. There was one, I think it was at the Crucible, Willow was on, was it either match ball or frame ball? I think it was frame ball, actually. I think it was a black. I'm not sure. I think it was a black ball, frame ball. And while he's down on the shot, one of the commentators said something funny. And people started laughing. And it's just a bit like, ooh, come on. That's, like you said, all moments of the cruise are important, but that, more than any other, was crucial. And yeah, I do. As I just said, the commentators are paid to be there. If they need to be a bit more conscious of when they're saying those funny lines. Listen, I don't want people to change. I think the commentary's superb. I think you guys do a great job. The other guys do a great job, obviously.
You almost gave me a compliment then. Very well played. Well stepped back.
They do a great job, and you don't want them to change too much. But yeah, just a little bit more thought at certain times. Stuff like that. When the player's down on the shot and it's, frame ball, maybe not the time to crack a funny. So yeah, maybe just a little bit more thought, I think. I think that's fair. Right. So, since we were last on, we've had the Seniors World Championship at the Crucible, and it was won by our old mate, Alfie Burden. And, could not be happier for Alfie, if I'm honest. Delighted. Great to see him there with all his family celebrating. I think he's in Q school right now. I think he is. He's just finished 2-year tour card. But a great win for Alfie, and it was a good tournament as well.
Does Q school start today?
Yesterday.
Started yesterday.
As we record it. Yeah, it started very quiet. I've got to be honest. Not heard anything about it. I went online last night to say, when did it start? Oh, started today. Okay.
Right. Yeah, no, great for Alfie. Delighted for him. I've known Alfie for so long. I remember first crossing paths with him. I think I played Alfie in one of my first pro matches when I turned pro in '98. I think I might have played him at the Plymouth Pavilions
Wow.
um, for the summer qualifiers of 1998. I've known him a long time. Really nice guy, lovely family, and a lot of time for him. And do you know what? Winning is winning.
Yeah.
And
100%. Yep.
when you've got to stand there and pop those balls, whether it's to win, your local club handicap or your local league match or to get on the tour or whatever it might be, or to win the seniors world championship, when you've got to stand there and pop those balls, that's when you find out what you've got in the locker. And delighted for Alfie and his family. Brilliant, brilliant to see.
Yeah, lovely, lovely guy. He, I think he's former English national amateur champion, Alfie, wasn't he? I think.
I'm not 100% sure,
Right.
to be totally honest, but like, I wouldn't be surprised. When if you had a world rankings of players, with the most natural talent, which
Yeah.
obviously, is a we don't have that, but he would be right up there. Because he's not had the success on the tour that he should have had, that his talent merits over the years. I don't think a lot of people have seen a lot of Alfie, but for the players on the tour, like he's a proper players player.
Yeah.
He's got a great touch and finesse, and love watching him play. And yeah, as I say, delighted for him.
Yeah. I'll share something about Alfie. During COVID, back in the dark old days, people that follow me on social media will be aware of this. I was very much left behind. I got no government support at all. And I was in a bit of a pickle, to be honest. I was a bit messed up, and I'd been putting stuff on social media. I got a message from Alfie, and he direct messaged me, and just said, "Look, Phil, if that's right, if you're really getting nothing, if you're struggling, mate, let me know because I'll help you out." He said, "I know a few other players would more than happily help you out. Please don't struggle and not ask for help." Obviously, I didn't take it. I wouldn't do that. But that's a measure of a man, that isn't it?
Mm.
And that's really stuck with me. That what a guy.
Yeah, proper bloke, Alfie, and yeah, really nice.
Yeah,
Really.
lovely families. His kids are great, and yeah, could not be happier for him. So well done, Alfie. Well done for everyone at World Seniors. Again, great tournament they put on in Sheffield. I think it's on like 4 or 5 days, but yeah, really, really brilliant tournament they put on there, Jason and the team. So well done. We've got the Women's World Championship on right now over in China. You can watch that online. And as we just said, Q School started yesterday. Goodness me, I went through the list yesterday of the players in that. Wow, that is a tough old school. Goodness me, there's some names.
Yeah, there is, and it's there's a few perennial contenders, isn't there, who play every year. I think a lot of people find it very hard to let go. They've been involved in snooker all their life. And it's not easy to walk away. It's kind of in your blood. And there's a few players who played in the 80s, 90s who were still having a crack at Q School.
Yeah, did I see Dean Reynolds' name on there? That's not the Dean Reynolds, is it?
I think you did. I think it is the Dean Reynolds, yeah. And Dean, I think got to the final of a couple of ranking events in the 80s. A very good player in his day. I don't think he's been in the best of health of the last few years. And listen, who is anyone to deny somebody that an opportunity? You have a day out, you pay your money, and you take your chance. That's the thrill of Q School, isn't it? Is that I think anyone can enter it. You pay your entry fee and off you go. I've got a small vested interest as we record this on the 22nd. My nephew Joshua Cooper starts out his campaign in Q School as he has done for the last several years on the bounce. Notably got a call up to play in the Welsh Open this year. Got through to the TV stages where he ran into godlike performance from Jack Lazowski. I think Jack reduced him to just a handful of points in that match. It was one to forget for the family. But Joshua, still chasing his dream. I'll be keeping a close eye on his performances, and who knows? If all the stars aligned and he came through, you could have my nephew could be on the tour. That'd be wonderful.
Amazing, wouldn't it? That'd be great. That'd be really cool. There's so many big names there, and good luck to everyone in it. That's massive. Just on Q School, you just mentioned it there. I'd love that. I love the fact that it's professional sport, that anyone can go. If you pay your money, you can go and have a go at Q School. And if you get through, you win a tour card or you earn a tour card. There's only really snooker and darts that have that, and they have a very similar process run by similar people. And
The darts have that. Is it the same in darts?
yeah, darts has Q School, yeah.
But is it open to anyone?
Yeah. Yeah,
Jeez,
yeah.
I'm gonna have to go and get my darts out.
You pay. Let's not start this again.
I've just had a dartboard. I've just had a dartboard put up in the house, actually.
You really?
Yeah, I got when I did that batch of filming for Paddy Power back around New Year's or whenever it was. I remember saying to the floor manager at the time, I said like, who do I have to speak to get a dartboard off you guys? You know, doing all this content for you. He said, oh, I'll just ring the editor now. He rang the chief editor. He said, oh, you can have this board when we're done with it. So they gave me the full proper, logoed Paddy Power board, proper World Championship board with the outer ring that protects the wall. Yeah, just had it put up in the house, so I might get my darts out.
So you've got the dartboard, the outer ring that protects the wall, and then have you got like a 12 foot by 12 foot cork pad that all goes on to protect the rest of the wall? Yeah,
Safety pad. Got one of the PDC refs chained up in the games room, just there ready when I want to go and play.
Russ Bray in the cellar.
He's just locked up there in the cellar, ready to 130.
Great, isn't he? Four.
Yeah, sorry, 26.
But no, yeah,
Can we just dive on because they were very funny? Do you remember those adverts they did with Russ Bray, where he was living with a former referee, and it was his wife on there, and he goes to the cupboard and he's like, "We need more milk." Very good,
fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Always used to tickle me that when you'd have the PDC on.
Yeah. Oh, I know what you're going to say. I know.
The day after that finished, the BDO started at late. Yeah. And you always knew when the BDO started because you put the telly on, you go into the other room and you'd hear boof, 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 26.
26. Yeah.
It was cracking, wasn't it? But yeah, Q School, it is wide open to anyone. Anyone can enter it. You pay your money.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So that's on right now. Other snooker news, Sean. It looks like ITV by the end of or from the end of this year will not be covering snooker. They've got the Champion and Champions British Open left to come this year, and it sounds like from what we've heard, the contract finishes end of this year, and it will be going elsewhere.
I have to say, didn't see this coming.
No,
didn't hear about it. Didn't know anything. Hadn't heard any rumors about it. Didn't see that coming at all, as far as I was aware. The world seemed like a happy place with snooker on ITV4 and ITV Sport. Didn't see that one coming at all.
No, I think it's great to have snooker on terrestrial television, as we call it in the UK. Sorry, being very UK centric, but as we call it, terrestrial digital television, or free to air. I know it's not. You got to pay a license fee and all that, but and I've got to say, ITV always did a great job of covering it. Now we don't know at this point where it will be going. There's rumors about Channel 5. I've worked with Channel 5 on the snooker. They do a great job, a really good job, and they take it very seriously. They've had great success with the seniors. Some of the viewing figures on the seniors, particularly on the 900 that we've done over in Ireland, in Hull, down at Epsom, the viewing figures have been phenomenal for that. If they put it on the main Channel 5 channel, that could be good for snooker because it might get more eyes on it than on ITV4. I don't know. ITV did a great job on production, really, really good job on production. So wherever it does go, I hope they have the same kind of production values because that is good to see, isn't it?
Yeah, great to see. Listen, just not party to those conversations that go on at WST Towers, are we? And when these negotiations are being done in and around, venue usage, channel usage, all of that stuff, that's way over our heads. I've only been on Channel 5 once. Here's one for the kids. I think it was one of my first ever professional bookings as a 15 or 16-year-old. Went on Channel 5. I'm sure Channel 5 had just started in kind of the late 90s. Is that right?
97, I think it started.
Right. So this would have been around in 97, 98. I think I'd either just turned pro or was just about to turn pro. And I think that was the story. Going to be the world's youngest ever professional. And I went on to the daytime talk show hosted by Gloria Hunniford.
Gloria Hunniford, wow.
where they'd installed a table in the studio, which was horrific. And then they asked me to do this trick shot, and I think the show was live. And could I get this trick shot to work? No.
That's not
Could
good.
I, heck? And it was. I remember walking out the TV studio thinking, that TV lark's not quite as easy as I thought that might be. That was pretty tough. That was. I didn't enjoy any of that.
We'll see what happens, but you may be on Channel 5. Some more coming up, but we'll see what happens with that. It's like we say, I don't think anything has been announced officially yet. Who knows? ITV might get it back. We never know. But I think Champion of Champions and British Open later on this year will be on ITV. But then after that, we shall wait and watch
It's a
this.
shame that, won't it? Because I quite enjoyed the old Hot Shots music. You know, when they did the Hot Shots, and they have that. Is it from the 70s? You'd know. Is it?
Yeah.
Is it from the 70s?
I don't know. No idea.
Don't pretend you don't know. Oh yeah, because sorry, you're not into popular music like everyone else. Sorry.
Absolutely. It's funny though, I do think the likes of Jill Douglas and the studio team and everything they've done a great job. Since it's gone back on ITV, it's been fantastic. So if they lose it altogether, I think it's a real pity. But that's it, isn't it? Things change, and that's how it is. Right, we're going to take a very short break, after which we're going to do a review of the 24-25 snooker season. Yeah, please do. We're going to take a short break after this podcast. We're going to have a month or so off. It is the off season, so we're going to have a bit of a rest. I think we're both overdue holidays, to be honest, but there you go. Let's talk about the 24-25 season then. It's now at an end, Sean. The first thing to say, most ever prize money on the tour. Well done, World Snooker Tour. They've made that happen, and it's been pretty incredible from a finance perspective, isn't it, Sean?
Yeah, it's been I mean, was it right that had Judd Trump have won the World Championship or got to the final of the World Championship this year, would he have become the first player to earn over £2 million in a season?
I think
Something
so. I mean,
like that?
he broke the record for the most earnings on the tour in a season. I think with 2 events left or 3 events left, which is that shows the progress, doesn't it? That shows how the prize money's grown. And I know some players will make the point, yeah, but look right the way down the earnings list and everything else. But sport's about winning, and he's won the events. He's made an awful lot of money. You've had your best ever year, I think, financially on tour.
Yeah, certainly from an earnings perspective, it's been my most lucrative season. I think I've had seasons where I've won more tournaments, but and I guess ultimately, it is about winning those tournaments. But I think it's also a bit twee, isn't it, when players say that? When players say it's about the trophies and stuff. We're all trying to earn a living at the end of the day, and
Absolutely.
Money's important as well, isn't it? Earning a living is important as well. And I think I was lucky, really, I suppose, that my win of the season happened to be the Masters. Obviously, the winner's first prize was quite big. So from that point of view, it's been a good season for me. It felt like on the table. It's felt a little bit frustrating at times because I feel like my sort of standards across the season were very high. I think my stats were pretty good. I mean, even at the World Championships this year, obviously I lost in the last 16, but in the quarterfinals, obviously with my broadcasting head on, I see all the stats. My stats were better than 7 of the 8 quarterfinalists.
Yeah.
And then, to sit there and have to watch everybody else playing snooker, not at the level I was playing it at, despite having lost, was quite frustrating, and that's felt like that's been mirrored throughout the season. To be honest, I know I'll get stick for this, but it's a bit like a couple of years ago where I kept saying I was trending in the right direction. I feel like for a lot of this season, my game was really good. And, some of the performances that it took to stop me, we were making jokes of it through the season. Arguably it was always someone who got to the final or won the tournament. It happened a lot, which is a nice sort of feather in the cap. You go, well, hang on a minute. It took somebody playing at their top of their game to beat you. But you know what? That only takes away the soreness of losing for so long. You still lost, and you're still on the plane home. And it's not easy to keep going back to the well. You keep going, you keep trying. But I suppose that's sport, isn't it? And I'm going to have a little bit of time off, but I'll keep going and I'll keep trying. And I'll turn up for next season as hungry as ever to win.
Overall, then, from your perspective, you draw a line down the middle. Good year, bad year. Which side of that fence do you put yourself on?
A definitely good year. I
Yeah.
mean, definitely good year. I said years ago, any season that you win an event automatically makes the season a good season. And I don't think that matters whether that is, the shootout, which I think a lot of players kind of still look down their nose at a little bit, or whether you win the World Championship. I think whether if you're in the winner's enclosure, then I think you put the season down as a success because that's what we're all trying to do. And of course, you're not in control of when you peak.
Yep.
You're not in control of which week you have your week in the sun. So anytime you win, I think you tick it down and say that was a good season.
Yeah, I think Judd's probably the best example of that. I mean, he's had an incredible season, absolutely amazing season. And just whilst he looked amazing at the Worlds, he couldn't quite get over that line. But as someone, a listener commented on here a few podcasts ago, you play the same players each week. The same players are in every tournament. It's just some players peak at different times and do well. Looking at the season overall, I want to touch on the class of 92, as they're always talked about a lot. John Higgins back in the winner's enclosure, where John belongs, let's be totally honest. He's had a funny few years. He's had a few years where he's not quite been there. Towards the end of this season, though, he has been on a massive upward trajectory, hasn't he?
Yeah, and the win in Yushan, was it Yushan that he won? I think it was.
Yes, I think so.
There's nothing that breeds confidence and can drown out those negative voices in your head better than winning. There is nothing that silences those negative thoughts more than being the person stood with the trophy at the end of the week. And the problem, I guess, and it's never happened to me, so I don't know, but I'm guessing when you've been as good and as successful as the class of 92 have been, a good performance here or there doesn't cut it.
Yeah.
Playing a best of 9 and winning 5-2 with 4 centuries and a 75 break isn't going to impress you. Like it would impress most other players.
That's a ridiculous level, by the way, isn't it? if you're judging success by that, that's madness, isn't it?
I think when you've been a John Higgins, a Mark Williams, a Ronnie O'Sullivan, anything but winning is failure.
Yeah.
And, judging yourself by those types of standards is hard, isn't it? And it must take its toll. As I say, I've never experienced that kind of scrutiny, so I'm guessing. But it must take its toll. But I don't know about you. I still think there's plenty of life left in the class of 92. I don't think they're going anywhere just yet. Well, I haven't got the rankings in front of me, but they finished, didn't they all finish in the top 10 or top 8 or something?
Yeah.
It's
ridiculous. You look at it, Willow rounded off last season. He won the Tour Championship. This season, he's been flying again as well and playing so well. Ronnie obviously has missed big chunks of the season this season. Still reached the quarterfinals of the Worlds. For a lot of players, the quarterfinal of the World Championships will be an absolute career highlight. Ronnie reaches it, and people are online writing him off. But it's like, just a second, he's just reached the quarters of the world. I wouldn't put it past Ronnie to come back next year and win loads of things.
Semis.
Sorry?
Didn't he get to the semis?
Semis, rather. Quarters, semis, yeah, semi-final. But apologies. But to do that, for a lot of players, that would be a massive career.
Yeah, totally.
But for Ronnie, you go online, it's total failure. You think, come on. Be real here. The guy hadn't played competitively since, I think, the UK's in December. It was amazing that he got that far. If his head's right, if his cue's right, if his tip's right, he could come back and win 5 or 6 events next year. Do not ever count that out.
Well, he couldn't have made it any more difficult for himself if he'd tried. With the technical aspects of the game. Obviously, there's the time away from the sport, which causes problems. No one knows how much was he practicing, was he not practicing. But the cue, let's not forget when he did last play in the Championship League, smashed his cue up. Having to get used to a new cue. Then deciding to go to titanium ferrule, which is a massive change, let alone on a cue you don't know. then changing back to brass and having 3 tips on during the same event, like you couldn't make it any more difficult for yourself to have a run. And he still got to the
Yeah.
semi-final. It goes to show it's that for me, it's that sort of unmeasurable element of aura and
Yeah.
reputation. I think he got through to the semi-finals based on people not being able to stand up.
Right.
I think everyone who he played had opportunities to beat him, and they couldn't bring themselves to beat Ronnie O'Sullivan.
Yeah.
By his own admission, he was well below par in all of those matches. There were little glimpses of it. There were little moments where you think, "Oh, there's the Rocket in action." But I think it was just a case of those that class of '92. They are so looked up to and revered in snooker,
As they should be.
as they should be. But the players, some of the players, they just can't. Some of them struggle to breathe. They struggle to tie their own shoes in the presence of one of the legends. And when you throw them in the balls and say, right, pop these balls to beat Ronnie O'Sullivan, they can't physically bring themselves to do it. And for me, that was how Ronnie O'Sullivan found himself in the last 4 this year.
Imagine being below par and reaching the semi-finals of the World Championship. It's ridiculous, isn't it? It really is. Right, let's do the 147 Snooker Podcast Awards. We're only going to do a couple of them, okay? But we are the only award-winning snooker podcast, so let's do some awards. First of all, Sean, your nominees, if you would, for most improved player.
Oh, goodness me. This is where I should have done some research, isn't it? Should have done some prep work.
That's all. There's only one. It can only be one player.
Yeah, Chris Wakeley.
No, it's not Wakeley. No chance. There's a player who didn't win a match on tour last year, and he's just won the World Championship. How is he not the most improved player? No, Chris Wakelin is. I joke, of course. Chris Wakelin, it's got to be, isn't it? I mean, he's got pockets now and everything.
He's got pockets on his trousers and everything. Yeah,
It's an improvement. It's a huge. What a year he's had. He's become a dad, and he is the most improved player on tour. I mean, he's been sensational this year.
No, incredible. I think it's like I hope this is taken in the way it's meant, which is a genuine sort of acknowledgement of a player's improvement. Yeah. Chris is like bordering on the 16. He's been in and out of the top 16 this season, so he's already one of the best players in the game. But just in the last season, I think he's gone from strength to strength. And there was an interview he gave halfway through the year where he talked about sort of having a bit of felt like he'd discovered a few things, worked a few things out. The journalist asked him to share them. He said, I'm not going to share them with you. I want to keep them to myself. And I think whatever they are, whatever those differences are, they look like they've had a genuine effect on Chris Wakeley. And he walks into the arena now believing that he belongs there. He looks like he believes he's going to win every time he walks out. Doesn't seem intimidated by who he plays. He and I played this season somewhere in China or one of the events out there. And like it was everything I had to keep with him. Now, I lost the match. He played unbelievably well. He was one of those games where they'd have had to call the match off for me to have won it. He would have had to have not turned up. It's the only way I was going to win. Incredible player.
As a player, from a player's perspective, I suspect that Chris has gone from being a player people weren't particularly that fussed about to being a player you don't want in the draw. Would I be right in thinking that? Is he one of those players now that you sort of look out for in the draw and think, I don't want him, to be honest?
It's when a player consistently, shows what they've got to a high level. Because everyone on their day has got that, meteoric performance in them. Every single tour player has it in the locker to play that well once. But when a player starts churning out consistently high level performances, you start thinking, not sure about that. When the World Championship draw was made this year, along with Zhao Xintong and a couple of others, like Ali Carter, Chris Wakelin was one of the potential grenades in the draw. Because just 3 months prior, he'd been in the top 16 and played at the Masters as a seed. So who wants Chris in the first round? Like, nobody.
No, they don't. So, most improved player award goes to Chris Wakelin. Well done, Chris. Moving on then, moment of the season. Now, There could be a few on this one. There's your Masters win, of course. There's Zhao Xintong lifting the worlds. Any that you'd like to throw in?
Yeah, I think there were. I mean, nothing's jumping to the front of my mind straight away. I just think this season there were so many
Yeah.
performances, weren't there? There were so many
John,
great.
John Higgins winning a final for the first time in years was one. However, I've got the moment of the season, Sean. The
Okay,
moment
let's
of the
see if I
season,
agree with you. Let's see.
it didn't come in a big arena. It came in a cubicle. The moment of the season, without any doubt whatsoever, was Artemis Sissins wishing Matt Selt a nice Christmas. As Matt Selt left the table absolutely fuming, and Artemis Sissins completely innocently said, "Have a great Christmas."
Well, it
That's
wasn't. It was the innocent. It was the innocent nature of it, wasn't it, that
and
made it funny? It was. It
that's
was.
what makes it the moment of the season.
Yeah.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
No,
So
I was going to go for. I was going to go for a really traditional snooker moment.
yeah, no, nothing
I,
beats that.
I
Nothing
think I
beats that.
could. I'm not sure anything beats that. Yeah, I think I might have to give that to you.
So, moment of the season goes to Artemis Sissins and Matt Selt. Okay, the Nostradamus Award for predictions. Well, I've won this season because I predicted that Zhao Xintong would get into the top 16 in his first year on tour. Well, he's done it in the tour, the season hasn't even started.
Did you say that?
Did I say that? I think you remember I said that. Yes. So predictions for next season then. These aren't necessarily awards, but predictions for next season. Are you going to make an outlandish one, Sean?
Have you got any up your sleeve?
If I'm honest, go on then. Going back to our most improved player, I am going to predict that Chris Wakelin will win a Triple Crown.
Yeah.
That's sorry, Chris. I've probably completely joned you for the next 12 months, but I'm predicting Chris Wakelin will win a Triple Crown event in the 25-26 season.
I'm not sure of the list, but I know there are quite a few players stuck on 2 out of the 3 Triple Crowns.
Yeah.
Stuart Bingham springs to mind, just looking for the UK Championships to complete his set. Zhao Xintong has got the UK Championships and Worlds, just looking for the Masters. Ding Junhui, just looking for the Worlds. I say just looking.
Yeah, just looking at that. Yeah.
My prediction for the season, and I might make others as the season starts, but I'm going to say, I think in 12 months' time, I think there'll be at least 1 new member of the Triple Crown Club.
Wow. Okay, big shout.
As I say, I haven't got the full list of players who are stuck on 2 out of the 3 in front of me, but I've just named 3 that are definitely are. And I think I might have even said Stuart last year. I think I predicted Stuart to win the UK Championships and complete his set. So I'm widening the net a little bit and saying like that could very well happen. But I'm going to say in a year's time there'll be a new member of the Triple Crown Club. That's not easy to say, that.
No, and it's got to be said as well, with us both mentioning Triple Crown so much, Dave Hendon will be falling out with us.
Sorry, Dave.
Sorry, Dave. Sorry, Dave. Love you, really. Right. So there you go. So I reckon Chris Wakelin will win a Triple Crown event. Sean reckons there will be a new member of the Triple Crown Club. Only award left then, Player of the Season. Now, a few nominees for this. Obviously, Zhao Xintong, World Champion. Kyron Wilson had a brilliant season right up until when he tried to beat the Crucible Curse and it all went a bit wrong. Wakelin's had a great season. Willow's had a great season. You won the Masters, of course. John Higgins back in the winner's enclosure. There's only one player, though, isn't there?
Yep, there is only one.
Yeah, it's got to be Judd Trump. So Judd Trump, Player of the Season. I mean, he smashed the 100th century break. Absolutely battered the 100th century breaks. Phenomenal. Just some season. If he could have got over the line in the Worlds, I mean, what an impact that would have had. But
I actually asked him when we were in Helsinki. I asked him about, said to him, and he bought a new car. He said, "Oh, what do you mean?" I said, "Well, because he didn't remember, but when he made the 100th century against yours truly at the Crucible, there was a voice shouted out from the family balcony. Now I think I know who it was, but I won't name him on the pod. And he, as the crowd sort of noise died down a little bit, shouted out, "Get a new car!" So I said to Judd in Helsinki, "Did you get a new car? You know what did you get like?" And he said, "Oh no, he hadn't treated himself to anything yet, but I think there might be something in the pipeline down the line."
Very nice.
When you've had the season and seasons that someone like Judd Trump has, when you're world number one, you nearly got to £2 million, you had won multiple of it. You know, when you've had that season, who is anyone to stop you from treating yourself to something nice? You know, fair play.
Absolutely should treat himself as well. So yeah, our player of the season this season is Judd Trump. If you agree, disagree with any of those, let us know at 147pod across all forms of social media. Right. We're going to miss the rant out this week, and we've got some listener questions to tidy up. So let's get through some of these. Innes Cameron on Facebook. Hi, guys. Love the podcast. Question to Sean on his piano prowess. I think that's bigging you up a bit, isn't it? Please,
Totally wrong, by the way.
Interested to know if you're self-taught or have had lessons and done grades, if anyone encouraged you to play, if you play any other instruments, and if you've ever played in a band. Maybe a super group with Steve Davis at some point. Also, does Phil play anything? Cheers. And he's put Innes rhymes with Guinness. I know that. Innes, don't worry about that. Innes Cameron. So there you go. So lessons or who encouraged you? You ever played in a band?
There was we always had a piano in the house growing up. It was my grandmother's that got passed down. You know, I didn't really play it. I was never encouraged to play it by my parents. You know, there wasn't a piano teacher or lessons or anything, and I regret that. I regret it on their behalf. Really, I wish that my parents had suggested lessons or encouraged lessons or something. I think for the most part, I'm totally self-taught. I mean, I did have a few lessons. I might, and by a few, I mean maybe half a dozen lessons with a teacher in Manchester when I lived there in Sale, actually, lovely lady, who I absolutely hounded into giving me piano lessons. But she very quickly realised that I wasn't going to listen. And we ended up just going, I used to just go around for tea and cake. It was it's a really funny situation.
Oh.
Such a lovely, lovely lady. And I think on the first or second lesson, she was like, "Yeah, I can't teach you," because she said, "Can you play anything?" And I think I played Tiny Dancer or something.
Right.
And she said, "But you've not had any lessons." I said, "No, but I can follow a YouTube video and I know the chords and I can, fiddle around." She went, "Yeah, I don't know how to teach you." So I used to just literally go around for tea and cake. She did encourage me to do my grades, and I remember this is a funny story. I went around. It was like my last lesson with her happened to be like, and by lesson it would have been showing me how to do a scale. Like, do you know what I mean? It was very basic, right on page 1 of the starter book. But she encouraged me to do my grades, and I did my grade 1 theory, which is that you don't play a piano at all in that. It's awful. And the night before, she said, "Now, have you got your ruler and your pencil and your rubber and your this, that like a back to school kit?" She said, "Because they won't provide it." I thought she was joking. I had to go to some like academy in Manchester for it. She said, "Oh no, you'll have to." So I had to make a detour on my way to WH Smith to buy a back to school starter kit of pencil and protractor and compass and all this. And I walked in, and there were people doing their grade 8 theory in this room. I sat there for 4 hours.
Wow.
I sat there. I mean, I left school at 13. Exams weren't my thing. I sat there and ripped through this piece of theory music, and you weren't allowed to leave.
Oh, right. Okay.
And an invigilator came across, and I said, "Listen, mate," I said, "is there any chance I can get out?" He went, "If you promise that you'll sign an autograph for my son and have a picture with me out the back," he said, "I'll let you go."
Brilliant. Wow.
So I managed to sneak out. So I did my grade 1 theory. And then decided that the exams weren't for me. Of course, my other half, Joe, is a professional pianist. So
I was going to say you will forever be the second best pianist in your house.
Oh no! Listen. I'm very flattered with your use of the words piano prowess, but honestly, it's just like a different league. When she plays piano, it's like the chaos of the world lines up. It's magical. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, she's fantastic at that. As for me, I used to sing in a band years ago. I sang in an indie band when I was
Did you?
sixth form, yeah. Yeah, singing in a band called the Blue Bottles, which was great fun. It was more about drinking and enjoying ourselves. But
Very good.
Sung in a band?
I was in the band at school. I played trumpet in the band at school.
Sorry. What kind of a band does a trumpet play?
The school band. We were like a school and then like a blues band. We used to go around to retirement homes and stuff at
Oh,
Christmas
no.
and do all that. Yeah,
It's funny, my parents,
and
not,
I was only really going for the cake, if I'm
of course,
honest.
you were going for the cake. We know that. Work that one out. My
I only
parents,
went for the cake.
not musical at all. I sung in a band and played various instruments when I was a kid. My brother ended up a semi-professional musician. My eldest son is about a week away from completing a music and sound recording degree. And my 6-year-old daughter is having piano lessons now with a listener to the podcast, a guy called Carl Mullen, who, when you do visit York, go up to the Minster, there's often a guy playing piano opposite. That's often Carl, who's teaching my daughter piano. And he does a great snooker medley as well. So if you do see him, ask him for that. Throw a couple of quid in his hat and he'll play you a snooker medley. I'm quite sure. There you go, Innes. Hope that answers your question. Sure.
Jumping over to Facebook here, we've got something in from Daniel France Morgan. Hey guys, as always, an amazing podcast and have enjoyed binge listening. This is the longest question of all time, by the way, so this is going to take some reading out. I've enjoyed binge listening. Yeah, go and make a brew while I read this question out. Hey guys, as always, an amazing podcast and have enjoyed binge listening to you too, as I was late to the party. Firstly, congrats, Sean, on a superb performance. Thank you against Daniel Wells in round one. It's great to see the Wilson Murphy Masters spat hasn't affected you. That's all been taken care of, pleased to say. My question, prior to the 25 World Champs, John Higgins had already been put through it a bit by slipping out of the top 16 briefly and wondering if he would climb back up. Now he has. He finds himself at the Worlds and is the only Scotsman. By the way, we're not halfway through this question yet. A very new experience, as he's always had Hendry, McManus, Campbell, Dott, Maguire, McGill, or Donaldson. Apologies if I've missed a few. He's always had at least two, usually 4 or 5. With snooker, particularly the Worlds being a heavily individually focused event, do you think he noticed? If he has, do you think it'll affect him, especially everything he's gone through rankings-wise? And do you think he'll take any more than usual pride from it? Or do you think he might wonder if Scottish snooker is just struggling to compete with the dizzy heights of the top 16 at the minute? Apologies for the ramble. Feel free to go back to your lives. Thank you. Doesn't say that. But thank you. Feel free to clip this a little bit. Should have read that first.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks, Dan.
Now, what was the question? I've read the question.
Yeah.
What was the question?
Daniel messages the podcast quite a lot, actually. Really appreciate your input, Daniel. Great listener. Thank you. Is Scottish snooker struggling to compete? And if so, is there a reason for it? What it used to be a real hotbed, didn't it? As he's mentioned, a lot of the players there. What's happening? Is it that the amateur side of it there isn't the focus up there now?
I don't know, to be honest. Do you know one of the things that's always baffled me? And I said this when I was on the board of WPBSA many moons ago. And this all goes back to national governing bodies, the old EASB, the Scottish amateur bodies, Northern Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, Wales, England, whatever you want to do. There's a massive push to try and get snooker Olympic recognition.
Yep.
And in the Olympics, obviously take Republic of Ireland out of it, it would be Team GB. So I said, why don't all the national governing bodies of Scotland, Northern Ireland, England and Wales merge and create a UK Amateur Snooker Association? Merge and pool all their resources and create a much better funded, wealthier, sort of more professional amateur setup in the UK. Because that's where all these problems start. That's the root of it.
Yeah.
What's happening at amateur level? What's happening in these clubs? Where are the new initiatives? Where are the new young players coming through? And they are coming through. Certainly in England, they're coming through.
100%.
Dan Moody, Liam Pullen, and others.
Yeah.
Into Wales, we've had Liam Davies and others coming through the system. So they are there. But I never understood this desire to keep the amateur bodies in the UK separate. When if we ended up with Olympic accreditation and the funding that comes from that,
yeah,
you're going into that as Team GB. Like, why don't we start as Team GB? now at amateur level? Why don't they all merge and make the amateur game bigger and better and more successful? Because that's the real root of it.
Do you think that that separation then has affected it and damages the sport in Scotland?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. But it's not a separation.
Yeah,
That
but
they're just keeping the status quo. It's the way it's always been. I don't understand it.
I'll be devil's advocate then. So what's changed? Because you can't say that's to blame for this when I mean the list of players he's given there is massive, isn't it? Of Scottish players that have come through and have done well. Why now does that seem to have stopped a little bit?
Well, who's to say that those players that he's named have had anything to do with the Scottish national governing body?
That point, yeah.
That's a big assumption that they had anything to do with it.
So yeah, so it's just a fact. Scottish snooker does seem to be struggling a bit at the moment. Hopefully that'll turn around. Hopefully,
I still think that I'm sorry to harp on about it. I think that point still has merit.
yeah,
I think the UK amateur national governing bodies should all merge,
don't disagree with that at all.
pool their resources, and make the amateur game in the UK come together.
And be
Don't
strong.
understand it.
There you go. Okay, moving on then. Mickey Meyer on Instagram. I've already heard from Mickey on this podcast once. Wanted to leave my off-season question here for both of you. From all the players not actually doing it already, who do you think will fancy doing commentary one day and who won't? So obviously we've seen Stephen Hallworth. He's now got a tour card, of course. He's back on tour, but Stephen's made that transition very well. Obviously yourself. We've seen Mark Allen, who's excellent, by the way, in the commentary box. Kyron Wilson as well. Joe Perry's in the commentary box now. Dominic Dale. But who on tour do you think would and who wouldn't that's currently in there?
Well, I think it would be great, wouldn't it, to get the class of '92.
That will never happen.
You just can't see it ever happening, can you?
That won't ever happen. Yes, it would. It would be absolutely fantastic. That said, when Hendry was playing, would you ever think he'd commentate?
Having said, I was just about to say, like Steve Davis was the greatest of all time in the '80s, Hendry in the '90s, and that you would have said, "Oh, they'll never end up in a comms box," and they both have. So, who's to say that Ronnie, Mark, or John might not find themselves? Of course, Ronnie's already doing it in terms of punditry, Eurosport. So, who's to say the other two won't? Of course, if Mark Williams speaks anything like he tweets.
You won't understand the word of it anyway.
Never understand a word he says. So he might have to go to elocution lessons for a brief moment. But no, in all seriousness, I think it would be great. Imagine getting the insight of what they're thinking, of how those two or those three read the game. Imagine that.
Oh, it'd be brilliant. It would be. Well, it's like Hendry. Like listen to Hendry commentate. It'd be absolutely fantastic. It would be great to see them do it. Players that won't, we've already mentioned Alfie Burden. There's no way Alfie can ever be allowed to commentate on snooker. Please, dear God, no.
Do you think they should bring back? I don't. In fact, bring back. I don't think they've ever done it. Do you remember in the early days of Sky Sports football, they used to do the fan thing? They used to do the fan commentary. I think that'd be great.
That would be good in snooker. Yeah, that would be good. Like, that'd be great actually to have fan commentary. That'd be interesting. But yeah. So
certainly, all the fans who criticise my commentary, they all seem to know what they're talking about. So let's get them in the box. Give you a microphone, get in the box, and let's see you talk a good game.
Careful what you wish for, mate. They might be better than you.
Totally fair. They couldn't be any worse, anyway.
That's true. Right, moving on.
Waffle. Right, Brett Worth over on Instagram. He says, "Hi guys, hope you're well. Absolutely love the show. Thank you very much. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Brett. Looking for a bit of advice on cue weight, light or heavy. What's your preference and advice on getting a new cue?" Well, Brett, I'm going to give you the advice.
I've got this one, Sean. I've got this one.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, you go. You go.
Crack on.
Crack on. I'm going to give you the advice I give to everyone, and it's weird, I think, how people don't do this. Play a lot of golf, as everyone knows. And when you buy new golf equipment, you invariably go and test it out first. When you go to a big golf superstore, there's an area where you can test out the clubs before you buy them. Now, we might not have that, but there are people and stockists around the UK. I'm assuming you're in the UK, Brett. Don't know why I've made that assumption. But let's assume you're in the UK. There are people out there who have tables in their stores where you can, before you purchase said cue, you can try it out.
Yep.
And see what suits you, because everyone's swing's different, everyone's speed of impact is different. Everyone prefers different tip sizes, titaniums, brass. All of this we've already talked about in the show already. So my biggest piece of advice would be before you spend your money, try it out.
Yeah, when you buy a pair of shoes, you try them on. When you buy a car, you test drive it.
It's
It
weird.
just makes sense, doesn't it, to actually go and try different cues and
It's weird how people just buy a cue.
yeah,
They assume they make the massive mistake that the more expensive the queue is, the better it's going to be for
yeah,
them. That's just totally wrong. Stephen Hendry's queue that he won 7 world titles with, I think, cost him £30.
yeah.
So money and price doesn't always equal performance.
Just don't
Um,
change the ferrule during a match. That's all.
don't change the ferrule during a match. My queue, just for reference, is about 17 and a quarter ounces in weight. So, I don't know where that. I think that's fairly light by modern standards. But Brett, try one out before you buy it.
I love the fact about 17 and a quarter ounces. Okay, moving on then. Lisa Gower on Facebook. Question for the next podcast as it's the end of season. If Sean and Phil would go on holiday together, never happened, where would you go? Also, York is not an answer. So go on. If we were to go on holiday together, where would we go, Sean?
Goodness, where would we go on holiday?
It's not a beach, is it? 'Cause if we went to a beach, we'd have the Japanese trying to harpoon us both and Greenpeace trying to roll us back in. So it's gonna have to be a city break, I think.
I reckon you and I would have a great time in Las Vegas.
Oh, that's dangerous. That's red flag everywhere, isn't it?
I reckon there's enough choice there of shows and music to suit both our tastes.
Yeah, do you know what? You're absolutely bang on. Yeah, I think Vegas would be great, especially as a boxing, Sean, as well.
Have we just agreed on something?
Yeah, I think we'd. It's somewhere I've never been,
I'm
and I think
shocked.
we'd love Vegas between us, and that'd be. I think it cost us an awful lot of money.
Is there a podcast in Vegas coming?
Well, there should be. They've got that big dome, that big sphere thing, haven't they? That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Live podcast, by the way. We'll see what happens. It's going to happen at some point. Right, last listener.
But now we've moved in. Now we've moved into the world of video podcast.
Yes, exactly.
Whatever that's called. What's a video pod? Is it vodcast? What are we doing? Like now what can stop us now?
I think a vodcasting includes us having a few drinks as well, doesn't it?
Totally fair.
Okay, last listener question of the season. Abby Lou 1 on Instagram. Hi, Phil and Sean. Firstly, I'm a huge fan of the pod. Listen to it religiously. I think Sean is an icon. That was going so well until that last bit. I've recently started getting into snooker in the past 3 years and just had a question about snookers required in a frame. One of your favourite topics, this, Sean. I listened to an old episode of the pod where Sean was saying he didn't see the point of coming back to the table when a lot of snookers were required to win the frame. Yet in his match against Judd in frame 6, he returned to the table needing 5 snookers. I was just wondering what the advantages were of coming back to the table. Is it to gain more table time? Thanks, Abby. And we get a kiss at the end of it as well, which is quite nice.
This is embarrassing, this one.
Right. You miscalculated, didn't you?
Totally miscounted.
Now, just on the snookers thing, we've put this to bed a few times, all right? Sean has said he wants the rule changing. So you don't play on for snookers. I think 2 snookers, I think you said was about the limit. While the rule is what the rule is, you've got to play to the rules. But I think it was Neil Robertson. Neil Robertson at the Crucible said that he'd like it changing. So it's 2 snookers. Once you get 2 snookers, that's it.
Yeah, listen, I know we've said this before many, many times in this podcast alone, but I know I tend to be the one that speaks openly about these things, perhaps to my detriment. But I'm certainly not on my own with this view. There are lots of people who have the same view as me. I actually think that when the frame is mathematically over, the frame should be over. I think the whole playing on in the hope of getting penalty points out of your opponent once the frame is mathematically in the bag is a total ridiculousness. And I've got no idea how it is part of snooker. But of course, whilst it is part of the game, I will play on and try to get snookers. I think I'm actually quite good at getting snookers. But Abby, I'm sorry to tell you that the frame you referenced was so embarrassing. I sat in my chair and I can't remember the exact score, but I was 10 out, which in snooker terminologies is 3 extra shots. I think I thought I needed two snookers or three snookers when in fact I needed six or five or something like that, 5 or 6. Anyway, I completely got the score wrong. It was very embarrassing. Just
Brilliant.
kind of had to go back, play. I got up, played a shot, walked back to my chair. I think Judd looked at me as if to say, what are you doing?"
Yeah. Wow. Just to
Miscounted.
just to answer Abby's question there, particularly early on in a match, some players will come to the table just to get some table time. Yes, absolutely they will. If a player's needing 10 snookers, it's the first frame, they've hardly been at the table.
That's weird. Isn't that weird?
No, I don't think it is. It gets your eye in a bit, doesn't it?
But what's the similarity? Where's the similar analogy in other sport? Where does that happen?
We know snooker's weird, don't we? It's a weird sport.
I
Full
think it's a
stop.
weird. I think it's a weird thing. There are some weird rules in.
Yeah, yeah, there are, and that's one of them. But
Do you think when the original rules were written, you know, in that army base camp up in the Uti Club in the mountains of India, do you think they were all drunk? They were they all steaming drunk?
it was a private members club. What do you think?
Say no more.
Okay. Thank you for all the listener questions, not just today, but this season. Really appreciate it. Listen, it's you guys' input that for me makes this podcast what it is. So keep them coming at 147 Pod. We're going to take a few weeks off, but when we come back, we need your questions. So keep them coming. We're going to round it off, though, with our usual pointless question. So the pointless question this week, Sean, is as it is the off season, sort of, if you could have a snooker tournament anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Ooh. Feel like the Maldivian snooker master.
But you're always talking about being too close to water and it affecting the tables. I think anywhere in the Maldives is very close to that.
Yeah, totally get that. Maldivian snooker championships. I don't know. They'd have to be somewhere with the sun, a bit of golf. Dubai sounds good. Why haven't we got a tournament in Dubai anymore? We used to have one. Why don't we have a tournament in Dubai anymore?
You've got the Middle East.
Pardon?
You've got the Middle East now, at least.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm going to stick with my answer from earlier because I think our joint holiday destination would make a great.
Same thing.
The Las Vegas Snooker Masters. Let's go.
Do you know what? I was literally about to say the same thing. Barry Hearn this week talking about darts, going back to darts again. He was saying about expanding in North America, and they've got darts in New York. But I think he said next season he wants, I think it was 5 darts events in North America, whether one's in Canada or two's in Canada, I don't know. But Vegas would be great, wouldn't it? They've got rugby league in Vegas now. They're taking a match every season from the Super League, playing in Vegas. Vegas for me, got to be absolutely incredible.
As we wrap up this season of the podcast, Phil, I'm a bit concerned. Something's happened in this podcast 2 or 3 times, which never happened.
It's very unnerving. I think this is why we need a break. We're agreeing far too often.
We've started agreeing with each other. I don't know who I'm more concerned about. You're starting to think like me, or I'm starting to think like you. I'm not sure. Like you say, maybe we need a break. Yeah. Remember, it's not me, it's you.
Yeah, it's not me, it's you. Both of those things, very, very concerning. Right. Thank you very much for listening or watching, in fact, because this will be on YouTube once again on Sean's YouTube channel. If you've not yet found it, if you are an audio listener, then have a watch, have a look. You can see our ugly mugs. Sean's actually done his hair this week, which is nice. What's coming up then? We've got a bit of a break in the podcast.
What's coming up? Yeah, do you know, it's been a busy few weeks since the season actually ended. The queue has gone down a little bit, but it will get lifted soon enough. The off season is a lot smaller than it used to be.
Yeah.
And it won't be long till I'm back on the table, trying to tweak my game, get it ready for next season, which will either start. I haven't decided when my season's going to start yet. I haven't decided if I'm playing in Championship League.
Okay.
So it could be the Shanghai Masters before I play, or it might be the Championship League. I'm not sure. What about you? What are you up to?
I've got a load of boxing coming up, actually. I am in Birmingham next Saturday, a week on Saturday. I'm in Bolton the week after that, in White, where the snooker is often. And then the week after that, I'm back to Denmark for a show, my first ever time in Copenhagen. So really, really looking forward to going to Copenhagen and exploring yet another city. Got a few breaks planned, which is nice. Me and my youngest son are going to head off to Berlin to have a little dig around. So any of our German listeners want any have any recommendations, fire them in. We'll gratefully accept those. And loads of good stuff coming up, which is great. So Sean, thank you for this season. It's been a pleasure, as always.
Absolutely, pleasure. And thank you to each and every one of you that's listened. As you say, Phil, now has watched as well. Thank you. It's been wonderful. We're going to have a little break and we'll see you soon.
Certainly will. Take care.